The Democratic Alliance is hosting its final local government elections campaign themed Let's Do More in Cape Town. Party leader John Steenhuisen and the City of Cape Town's mayoral candidate Geordin Hill-Lewis are leading two events lined up for today. Newzroom Afrika's Athi Mtongana joins us live now. Athi, very good morning to you. We've been talking about some of the key factors when it comes to the DA's positioning in these elections, racial issues being one of those matters. But when it comes to the events getting underway, what are some of the big expectations today in that final push?
A very good morning to you, Paul. I want to set the scene for you to show you that DA supporters are out in their numbers this morning to come to one of their last rallies really here in Cape Town. It's going to be led, of course, by the party's leader, John Steenhuisen, together with the City of Cape Town's mayoral candidate, Geordin Hill-Lewis, who's got a huge bus. I'm going to ask my colleague, if he can, to pan towards the bus so he can show you how Geordin has been riding in this big bus throughout his campaign. He has been busing in several members of the party who've been part of his campaign trail. He has just arrived, Geordin Hill-Lewis, the City of Cape Town's mayoral candidate. But, of course, without wasting any time, Paul, I do have the leader of the party, John Steenhuisen, here with me, who's going to touch on the message that you're going to be sending to the DA supporters that are out here, hoping to hear the last few words from you just ahead of the 1st of November.
Right. Yeah, well, we're here today to close off the campaign here in Cape Town, Geordin's campaign for mayor. The slogan, Cape Town works, let's do more. It's showing that we've made progress, but there's still a long way to go in what we want to finish and do here. We want Cape Town to be measured amongst the best cities in the world. We don't want to be top of the pile in South Africa. We want to be top of the pile internationally. And that's what Geordin's vision for the city is, freeing you from Eskom, freeing you from national government failures, making sure that we get things done here. It's been a spirited campaign. I'm really confident we're going to do really, really well here on election day. I'm convinced we're going to retain the city of Cape Town. I'm convinced we're going to get a nice majority from the people of Cape Town to be able to keep getting things done.
I want to talk to you about what you're going to be telling the communities where you visited after the elections. Are you hopeful in some of the wards where you've actually lost in the last municipal elections? Are you hoping to regain some of them? And the advent of these independent candidates, even Helen Zille going as far as saying that they are costing the DA votes.
Well, what they're doing is splitting the vote. So they're at hazard because they take a small number of votes, but in wards that are marginal, they could end up making sure you have an ANC or an EFF councillor instead of a DA councillor. So essentially what they're doing is playing into the hands of the ANC. If the ANC can't get your vote, they're desperate for you to vote for an independent or a smaller party so that they can then come in through the back door there. That's the danger of them. Not one of those independents is going to win the seat, but they're going to cause damage to the parties that have the best chance of keeping the ANC out. And that's why we're telling people, ho baby blow, vote for the party that's got a track record of getting things done. Make sure you vote strategically for the strongest party, or you're going to wake up with a 5-year nightmare of an ANC or EFF councillor.
Talking about a track record, the DA has a track record of being embroiled in racial issues in this country. We've had several resignations from prominent DA black leaders. Fast forward to that interview that you had with Gareth Cliff, that smirk that you had on your face, really outraging South Africans, saying that you're clearly just dismissing someone's race experience. And basically people calling you racist. John, what do you have to say to that?
That's absolute nonsense. And I'm very glad I'm wearing a mask today because maybe, you might misinterpret my facial expression. The problem here is that I never said one word on that interview. I spoke about service delivery. That's all I was on there to talk about was service delivery. Now,
why did you look like you're about to smile when Gareth was dismissing someone's experience based on racism?
Are we policing people's facial expressions in South Africa now? Because if we are, it is an absolute new low. I was in a room full of other people in an office in Potchefstroom. My facial expressions have nothing to do with what I'm thinking about or what I was preparing to say. I was there to talk about service delivery and the DA's track record of service delivery. And I would point anybody in that interview to one thing that was said that said anything that devalued anybody's experience. Quite the opposite. I've been on the record saying that politicians have to take people's lived experiences into reality. It's our business. It's our currency. It's what we're doing every day. It's why we're fighting for more jobs. It's why we're fighting to keep the lights on. It's why we're fighting for a more inclusive city. It's why we're fighting to ensure that people have the dignity of sanitation and water. It's precisely because we want to improve every South African's lived experience. This is just the desperation that our opponents and the mainstream media have had in this election to try and make...
But anyone looking at that interview can clearly see body language speaks. You might have not verbally said anything, but the look on your face during that period when Gareth was almost like mocking someone's racism experience as a black woman. Body language speaks volumes.
Come on, Athi. Are we really going so low now that we're policing the look in somebody's eye or their facial expression? I could say to you right now that you're looking at me in a very dodgy way. I don't think that's fair. It's what comes out of your mouth and what your actions are. And what has come out of my mouth and what our actions have been is inclusive growth for the country, addressing the inequalities of the past through speeding up service delivery and giving people the dignity of work, giving people the dignity of services, giving people the dignity of ensuring that they've got a council that's not stealing their money but working for them. You judge people by their actions. If we're not going to go around judging people by their facial expressions, it's a whole new industry in South Africa that we're going to have to...
What was going through your mind then at that moment? Because people are very interested to find out.
I was preparing to make my pitch about service delivery, which is what I was there to talk about. How the DA gets things done. How where we govern, we're already changing people's lives. How where our government's in place, it's the most pro-poor governments in the country. How we're the only party that's lifting people out of poverty and into opportunity. That was a sideshow. I was there to talk about service delivery, which is the one thing that matters in this election. Service delivery. It's the only thing that matters. Everything else is a distraction. This election is about who's going to keep the lights on, who's going to keep the taps running, who's going to keep you safe in your community, and who's going to make sure your money is being spent on you and not politicians.
Service delivery is integral in municipal elections locally. But, John, race is an issue in South Africa, looking at our history, and where you have people talk about their racism experiences. Are you saying racism is something that the party is completely not focusing on and only looking at issues of service delivery? That is what people are trying to ascertain.
Of course not. And of course race matters in South Africa. Look at our history, look at our past, look at the racial policies this government's doing. But we're not going to overcome those racial difficulties until we're starting to give people and empower them with access to proper housing closer to workplaces, a reliable public transport system.
Many people say, even in places like the Western Cape, spatial planning, for instance, came as a result of racial discrimination. So how do you begin to address that if you don't deal with the race issue and racism?
That's exactly why Geordin has spoken significantly about having housing opportunities, social housing opportunities closer to working centre. The Pinelands project that's going to create thousands of housing opportunities for people right close to the city. It's why we have the most reliable public transport system, so that in the interim we're able to bridge that spatial inequality by bringing people closer to work opportunities. It's by making sure that people have the dignity of running water and sanitation so that they can live a life of dignity. It's about making sure that no citizen in the Western Cape is more than 5 kilometres away from a healthcare facility. Those are the things the DA is doing to overcome these imbalances of the past, structurally and making sure that financially we're spending money in areas that need to be able to be advanced and be uplifted so we can bring everybody up to an equal footing in South Africa.
I do want to let you go, John, but I'm going to bring this race issue up again because it really caused outrage in the public domain to an extent where even some of the people who trusted the DA, who said they will not vote for the DA because of that incident. If you're saying it's not fair, what are you then saying to the electorate that is watching you on a daily basis campaigning?
How come the president's never been asked about any of his facial expressions? How come Didi Mabuza's never questioned about the facial expressions he uses? Why have the media chosen to focus on one person's facial expressions? Not on what they said, not on what they do, but on their perception of what that person's facial expression is.
To the people behind you right now who are here to listen to you speak to them in this last rally, what are you going to tell them about race?
I'm going to say if you want to ensure that we address the imbalances of the past, you need a government on your side that's going to actually do things. Not a government that talks about doing it, a government that's actually building social housing, a government that's actually investing in communities, a government that's keeping your children safe from gangsterism and drugs, a government that's providing a quality education so that your children have the best shot of succeeding in the future in South Africa. That is how you address the inequalities of the past, through actions, not talking. We've had 27 years of talking from the ANC. We've had a number of years of doing by the DA. The doing outstrips the talking 100,000 to 1. We're making a difference while the ANC is talking. We're getting on and dealing with these things in South Africa.
John, thank you so much for your time. The leader of the official opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, John Steenhuisen, ahead of the proceedings starting here, where they'll be hosting their last DA rally in Cape Town. I'm going to ask my colleague to pan and show you the number of people that are here. Surrounded, Geordin Hill-Lewis is surrounded, of course, by the members of the Democratic Alliance here today, hoping to hear the last few words from their leaders before the 1st of November, when they head to the polls to cast their votes and vote for the parties that they trust as South Africans.
Athi, let's leave it there for now. Team Mtongana asking the DA's John Steenhuisen some rather tough questions on that issue of race.